Welcome back to Sports Hop. You already know what time it is. It's your boy Mack B, back at it, back in the building. Episode 62. I'm so excited. We appreciate the love. And speaking of spreading the love, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the movement. We are building and doing it at the same time that we show the support for the viewers and likewise. So it is on and popping. I'm in the building. Solomon is in the building. How you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good here.
That's right.
That was an exciting game. Well, it should have been more exciting game.
It was a very interesting game for the most part. I mean, shout out to the Thunder, first of all, for winning, the NBA championship. They did it in Game 7, 103-91 out in Oklahoma City. They got it done. Little people were a little anxious in that first half. Pacers actually went into the half up 1. I believe it was 48-47 at the half, but nonetheless, Indiana showed a lot of fight, a lot of scrappiness, especially with Halliburton going down early. We'll get to him in a moment, but I want to start the show off by giving major props to Oklahoma City GM Sam Presti, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the new face of the league, the MVP, not only of the NBA Finals, but of the entire regular season. So shout out to, Sam Presti for getting it done. J-Dub also was a key contributor. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Thunder are just loaded, right? They're young. They're one of the youngest teams in the association. I believe the average age on the team is 25 years of age. So when you got all these young players, you've got great complementary players coming off the bench, and you got leaders like Caruso, who's been in the league for quite some time. You got Chet Holmgren, who's a young player, a great rim protector. You got Hartenstein, who came over from New York. So you got 2 7-footers on the roster. You got all these guys that can light you up from the outside. Then you got players that can get to the rim or beat you with a 3-point shot and spread the floor. So the Thunder are a team to be reckoned with. I said this 5 or 6 months ago that I thought they would get to the NBA Finals and lose to Boston. Obviously, that went a whole different direction when Tatum went down and the Knicks beat the Celtics. But nonetheless, Oklahoma City is a force to be reckoned with. Shout out to Thunder Nation. I love it. Small market team, dominating, going to be a dominant team for years to come, right? They still have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 more first-round picks from that Paul George trade. So they eating real good over there in OKC. Shout out to the Thunder for getting it done and making it happen. I think the West, obviously, it's always more loaded than a baked potato at Wendy's, right? But even with the recent things that have been going down trade-wise, which we'll get to momentarily, the Western Conference, I think the Thunder is still clearly the team to beat with all the athleticism, the youth. They got great organizational leadership in the front office. They just get it done on all levels. So nothing but love and respect to the Thunder. 2025 NBA champions. But I do want to give some love and shout out the Pacers for, their dedication, their courage, their grit, their scrappiness. And, when Halliburton went down in that first quarter, I knew right away the way he fell. Before I saw the replay and it actually popped, I'm like, okay, this is an Achilles. It's not a good sign. When he cut and went to get, penetrate the lane. But feel terrible for Tyrese Halliburton. But I still respect the fight and him being on an injured calf, playing a lot of that series. He was hurt. He was compromised, but he didn't throw in the towel. He still fought for his team. Big time respect for him. I still think he's a superstar player at a high level, and I think he's got a lot more basketball left to be played. Obviously, this is the type of injury where he's not going to see the floor for at least a minimum of 12 months. He's got to come back from that Achilles tear. But, the playoffs have been interesting this year because you had Dame Lillard tear his Achilles. You had Jason Tatum tear his Achilles, and now Halliburton. And ironically enough, they all wore the number 0. I don't know if that means anything, but every time it went down, Solomon, each player had the number 0 on their jersey.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I just looked it up and it was interesting. I kind of found that out earlier today. But nonetheless, we wish him and his family well, and a speedy recovery to a great player in Tyrese Halliburton. And I got to also give love to Rick Carlisle. Great coach, won a championship in Dallas, had them fighting to the very end. I love TJ McConnell's game. He's just an energizer bunny coming off that bench, and he can score from anywhere on the floor, and he can beat you and get to the basket, but he's a great role player. I also like, of course, Halliburton before he went down, but you've got other players like Miles Turner and OG Toppin and some young players, Mathurin and all these guys that, have a bright future, and I think the Pacers are going to be a team to be reckoned with now. Obviously, losing Tyrese Halliburton, more than likely for most of next year's NBA regular season, I don't think the Pacers are going to make as deep of a playoff run without him in the lineup. But I do believe in years to come, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And shout out to Indiana, the fan base, Pacer Nation, because they showed up. I saw a sea of yellow in that crowd, right? And some of those Pacer fans traveled well up in OKC and just to support their team. So much love to them. Respect to the legend Reggie Miller. He was at literally every game, him and his son. So I love to see the camaraderie. But Indiana, keep your heads up high. You got nothing to hold your heads down for. You had an amazing year. Nobody anticipated the Pacers getting to the finals, let alone being on the verge of winning it in Game 7. So I do believe that the Thunder are the team to beat in the West. Now, my question to you, Solomon, is this. Now that we have the newly crowned 2025 NBA champions out of the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder, is this the start of a mini dynasty in OKC? Do you see them showing up in the finals the next 3 to 5 years? Because I honestly believe it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I do. But more importantly, this has shown that a team without veterans can win. You know what I mean? And it's always been, the formula has always been, you have a few young, hot players, and then you've got some journeyman guys in there, and then you've got some real, just older guys that keep the locker room together,
right.
Keep everybody, talk about playoff experience and all this. This team went in there, and they just, every year, they just got better, and they won it with all young players. And so it's a new formula in a bit for the NBA. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I like the swag because they didn't do any blockbuster trades where they wanted to form a super team and do this and do that. The Thunder did it the right way, and they just developed organically. That's why I got much respect for the executive vice president and the general manager, Sam Presti, who's done a phenomenal job in OKC. So he was the mastermind behind a lot of these acquisitions and these trades and loading up those draft picks. So that's where it's at. I mean, I think, the league is changing, and I don't think you can just rinse and repeat and just have guys coming from other markets and other teams that, have won some titles, but then you just throw them on another team and you just think automatically, okay, well, this team's going to be a contender now, or this team is going to compete for a title. Players have to develop. They got to have time to gel. They got to have time to have chemistry. And I think that's where the league is going. And a lot of these smaller market teams like the Pacers in Indiana, like the Thunder in Oklahoma City, those are teams of the future. I love what's going on. And definitely, I think it's the start of a dynasty in Oklahoma City. But shout out to them. Much respect to Thunder Nation and their fans. And all I can say is, watch out next year. It's going to be interesting, especially out west, to see how it all unfolds. And speaking of things unfolding, we're heading down to H-Town, Houston, Texas, by way of Phoenix, Arizona, because we had a major trade that went down. Phoenix basically shipped off Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. Wasn't really a big surprise in terms of him being traded. Houston was on his bucket list of a potential destination. So Kevin Durant, 36 years of age, he can still pull up and beat you anywhere on the floor. He can get to the rim. And he's a very underrated defender. I think he can play well on the defensive end of the floor. In exchange, you got Dylan Brooks and you got Jalen Green going to Phoenix, and they're going to surround Devin Booker with a nucleus of new players. They also got in return for Durant, Phoenix also gets 5 second-round picks and the 10th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. So in terms of who won this trade, I'll be honest with you. I know it's early and only time will tell, but I believe long-term, I think the Phoenix Suns are setting themselves up for a bright future. I think they're kind of following the blueprint of Oklahoma City in a way, because Kevin Durant, as great as he is, he's an aging player. He does have some vulnerability. He gets hurt and banged up sometimes, and he's missed quite a lot of time anywhere he's gone, but he's still a future MVP or a Hall of Famer. He's already been an MVP in the finals, but I do believe that Kevin Durant still has some game left. He's still got some two-stepping, and he can still maneuver and pivot and take you to the hole and clown. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Kevin Durant is a good acquisition. It's a good pickup for the Rockets with Ime Udoka down there in H-Town. They still got some good pieces, but losing Jalen Green and losing Dillon Brooks, who's a great defender and he can hit you with a 3-ball on the outside, I don't necessarily think that was the best move for the Rockets in terms of winning right now. Now, it remains to be seen. Again, we haven't seen him play one game yet in a Rockets uniform, so only time will tell. But I do like the direction that the Suns are going in, because you not only get a lot of young talent through the draft in the second round, and you get that pick in the first round, the 10th pick that they got from Houston, but you're surrounding Devin Booker now with Dillon Brooks. You got Jalen Green, who's an athletic young player. He just needs to develop a little more consistency with his game. But when he's on, he can ball with anybody. I really like his athleticism. I like what he can do on the floor. And Dillon Brooks is just a professional pest, right? He not only can get you about 15 to 20 points a game, shut down the primary scorer on the opposing team, but he can get under your skin. And he's a mastermind at doing that. So I actually like Dillon Brooks. I know he's looked at as a villain around the league, but I like his game. I like the mind games that he plays. It kind of reminds me of 90s basketball, back in the Pistons and the Bulls days, when you had Rick Mahorn and Lambeer and Jordan and, all the Pippen and all these players going at each other. So the game obviously is not as physical as it once was, but I do like the move that Phoenix has done. They're building for the future. I think Phoenix is going to be a really strong team in the next 3 to 5 years. Next year, they might make a little bit of noise. I think they'll get to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make a deep run next year, but I give Phoenix about 3 to 5 years, especially if Devin Booker stays healthy and Jalen Green comes around consistently and Dillon Brooks continues to be the Dillon Brooks that we all know and love, and some of y'all all love and hate. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the Valley of the Sun. Solomon, what are your thoughts on this trade? Do you like what the Suns did in terms of shipping Durant off to Houston? And what do you think on the other side? You think the Rockets are ready in a win-now championship mode with the pickup?
Well, the thing about the Rockets is they have an excellent coach, and I think we saw that in Boston.
Facts.
Minus the little thing that happened there. But I don't think I like this on either side. I would like it more for Houston if they didn't give up Dillon Brooks, because a guy like that, it's not only his tenacity, it's like he sets the tone for your team. You know what I mean? That you're going to be tough, gritty, and all of that, right? So Devin Booker's going to benefit from some of that, but I just still don't think Phoenix has enough firepower. I don't think that their coaching situation is where it should be. So I don't really see them doing much. But, I sort of feel like Houston's taken a step back, but I think they can recover. So overall, Houston won the trade, but I just really wish they didn't give up Dillon Brooks.
Okay. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, Phoenix does have a revolving door when it comes to coaches. They have no patience whatsoever down there, and their front office needs to get it together. But in terms of the trade and the future long-term, I honestly believe the Suns came out on the better end of this. But shout out to KD. I love your game. KD, Trey, Kevin Durant, the man with the plan. So it'll be interesting to see how it all goes down in Houston, Texas. And is this his final landing spot? Because he's bounced around the league a lot in the last few years, Kevin Durant. But it'll be interesting to see if he finishes his playing career out in Houston at 36 years of age currently. But we wish all the teams well, and we're going to move on. And speaking of moving on and doing it really fast, we're going to hop to Cleveland, Ohio, Believe Land. Shout out to Shedeur Sanders, fighting for a spot on that Cleveland Browns roster, trying to make some things happen. And if he's as fast on the field as he's been in the streets lately, Cleveland, you got a diamond in the rough, because cited for going 101 miles an hour in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. His second citation in 2 weeks. They popped him previously for going 91 in a 75-mile-per-hour zone. But a lot of people are making a big deal about this, the allure of Shedeur. Some people are like, it's no big deal. Others are like, it is a concern. I'm kind of in the middle with this, Solomon. And on one side, I got to say this. Was I 21, 22 years of age? Was I 21 or 22 years of age at one time? Yeah. Did I make those mistakes and get a few tickets? Yeah. I think we all have made some mistakes or made some questionable decisions, especially when we were younger. So you got to give him a pass on that. He's a young guy, A lot of expectations, a lot of hype, a lot of flashiness to his game and his whole swag. But I do believe that he needs to kind of slow his roll, because if you keep stacking up tickets like that, there's something called a suspended license, which may be in your future, and you don't want to deal with that. The last thing Cleveland wants to have happen organizationally is to answer questions related to things happening off the field. These incidents are getting pulled over and getting stopped. So I do believe that Shedeur has got a great future in the NFL. I'm rooting for him. I hope that he lands the starting position maybe halfway through the season. I know they're going to go with Flacco to start the year off, but I do like what I've seen in rookie mini camp from Sanders, and he's balling and he's doing what he can do, because we all know he's got the gift. And playing at Colorado under Coach Prime, we've seen him in big games and big moments deliver. So I have no concerns or reservations when it comes to him on the field. Off the field, I am a little bit worried here. Now, if it was just a one-and-done speeding ticket, no biggie. But now that you've had back-to-back in 2 weeks and the rate of speed that you're going, you got to be careful out here in these streets, because you got people walking dogs, children running into the streets. Now, I understand if you're on a highway, that's a whole different element. But at the end of the day, bad things can happen. Just ask Henry Ruggs, who's serving prison time right now. But that was an alcohol-related incident, so I can't compare the two and say that Shedeur's situation is the same. But at the end of the day, pump the brakes, slow down a little bit. I know your drip game is the real deal, but it's okay if you can still get there on time, but just do it at a slower pace. So that's my take on the situation. I don't want to put too much read on this, Solomon. I do believe everyone, especially younger at that age, is entitled to make a couple of mistakes. But if it continues, I think it could be a major distraction for Shedeur and the Browns. What are your thoughts on this situation?
Well, I think it's not a big deal. And I'll tell you why. Now, of course, safety aside, right? If he's speeding through residential neighborhoods where he can hurt somebody, that's one thing. But if all we're talking about is him speeding, we're not talking about drugs. The Cleveland Browns have nightmares of the whole Johnny Manziel thing, where it's just like there's always something going on, women or whatever. This is not that. He's driving a fast car. And like you said, we've all driven fast, right? And
yeah.
When you at his level with his money, you can just drive faster in better cars. So
yeah,
you're going to get noticed.
His whip was a little bit more flashier than ours back then.
But yeah, as long as it's not... As long as it's not like, there's drug-related things, women and all this other stuff, partying late night, those are signs where you have a quarterback who's irresponsible. But I think this is something that can be curtailed, something that he can correct, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree. It is a little bit concerning for me because of the fact that it's been twice in such a short period of time. So you got to learn from the first mistake, right? slow it down, pump the brakes a little bit. I'd hate to see like an accident or something happen. It's not just about getting the citation. It's more about saving lives, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going at that rate of speed, 100 miles an hour, your reaction time is going to be compromised a little bit. You're not going to be able to stop as quickly. So, we all wish the kid nothing but the best. He's a talented guy. I wish him well. I think he's the future franchise quarterback for Cleveland. Because we all know, speaking of Cleveland and the Browns, things have not been going their way the last few years. They have just been a dumpster fire, and it has been a toxic mess. In fact, hence the sound effect. We need to flush away all the nightmares, all the bad memories. I went ahead and wiggled that handle for you, Cleveland. So hopefully this season will be a little bit better of an outcome for you and the Browns organization. So we shall see what happens, but big time respect and shout out to Shedeur. We got love for you. We believe in you. And Cleveland, we hope organizationally that you guys can start to come around and get things in order. We are going to move on. And we are going to talk about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun and everything that was going down with Cunningham and JC Sheldon. And, she poked Caitlin in the eye. Caitlin retaliated, and you got people coming in and then pushing her on the ground. And then later on in that game, okay, I know it's been a few days, but it's still fresh in my mind. Later on in that game, you had JC Sheldon going to the hoop, and you had Cunningham coming in with an aggressive foul. I mean, she actually got ejected. But I like what she did, just to say, hold up now. Do you know who you're dealing with? Not only are we the Indiana Fever, we got the fever for the flavor of a little bit of fisticuffs. So she had the flagrant foul, which led to the ejection. She did yank her down fairly rough. But I like the physicality, especially in the WNBA, because we don't always get a chance to see that kind of action, right? So I like what Caitlin Clark and the Fever are doing, showing a little bit of swag in terms of, hold on, we run this. This is what we are about. This is our organization. You're not going to come on our floor and try to disrespect the brand and disrespect a generational talent, which Caitlin Clark clearly is. And everybody's going to come for her because she's basically the best in the league. We know this. But I do believe when she got shoved to the floor, that was upgraded. Mabry, who shoved her to the floor, that was upgraded eventually to a flagrant 2, which would have got her kicked out of the game. I mean, they only called it a flagrant 1 at that time. But Marina Mabry was out of line. She wasn't even involved in the play. You coming in late and then trying to push somebody down to the floor. What do you think is going to happen? You basically stirring the pot. So at the end of the day, I like the Fever. I know they're an early favorite to make a deep playoff run. The Connecticut Sun are going nowhere. That sun is setting every day as we speak because they can't get it together and they're not really winning a lot of games. But I do wish them well in the future. But I do want to give some love to Cunningham because I do like what she was able to do in terms of protecting her teammate, Sophie Cunningham, protecting Caitlin Clark, and basically doing that flagrant foul. I'm not inciting violence or encouraging women out there, if you playing ball, to get violent. But in those situations, I like the response. I like what she did. And she kind of let JC know what time it is. Like, hold on. You're not going to get away with poking my homegirl in the eye and doing what you did. So here's a little bit of retaliation. So ever since then, Cunningham, by the way, has just been bubbling like dish soap online, right? So she's got like over 1 million followers, if I'm not mistaken, on Instagram now. Her followers on TikTok have elevated. I didn't really know much about her until this incident. I'm going to keep it 100. But I do like what she was able to deliver in terms of protecting and defending her teammate. And she wasn't playing around. And, it is what it is. I think it adds another interesting element to the WNBA, to be honest with you. That's been lacking. I do like the physicality. I do like a little bit of controversy. What are your thoughts here, Solomon? Is it a big deal in terms of what went down recently between the Fever and the Sun? Or is it no big deal at all? What are you thinking here?
Well, I think it's a big deal because Number one, the WNBA is always talking about, comparisons and to the NBA in terms of, their pay and stuff like that. And, we look at ticket sales, we look at all these things. This is another element to the game, not necessarily the violence, but teammates stepping up for other teammates, and especially Caitlin Clark, as many tickets as they sell. So I don't know, you don't want to condone the violence, but you do like the camaraderie. You do. It reminds me of, Derek Fisher when he put that foul on Scola.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. And so you feel good from a teammate's point of view for it.
Right. Well, a little bit of controversy, a little bit of chippiness. It all leads to great ratings at the end of the day. I really like the camaraderie that the Fever have, and then the rivalry that's developing in the WNBA, between them and the Sky, because you got Angel Reese on the other side. Now you got the Sun and the Fever. I think there's going to be some bad blood for years to come. They're not going to forget about what went down with Sheldon and Cunningham, but props to the Fever. Love and respect to Caitlin Clark. I love your game. You are a generational talent. I can't wait to get you on this show. Hopefully that is sooner than later, Caitlin. But I love your game. I love your aggressiveness, and I love your winning attitude. So I think the Fever are going to be a team to be reckoned with for years to come, especially if they stay healthy. So we shall see how it plays out. And we are going to be moving on. And we are going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, who have just recently been sold. The billionaire with a capital B, Mark Walters, the current owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, also a great friend and business associate of the legendary Hall of Famer Irvin Magic Johnson. So shout out to the Lakers and Jeannie Buss, who still stays on, actively helping to run the organization. I do believe the Buss family still retains about a 15% minority stake in the franchise, but Mark Walters, a multi-billionaire who's known for making big-time moves with the Dodgers, and he's not afraid to spend money, right? So I think this is a huge move for the Lakers. If I'm LeBron James or Luka Doncic or anybody else on that roster, or JJ Redick, the coach, I'm hell of excited, because now you've got ownership that's got deep pockets, not afraid to make bold moves, not afraid to spend money. I think the Lakers are going to be in a good position for years to come with the change in ownership. And they're the biggest brand. I mean, they sold for $10 billion. There has been no franchise in the history of sports that has sold for that much money. So I remember that Dr. Buss back in the late 70s, I believe, or early 80s, purchased the team for $68 or $69 million, okay? And now they sold for $10 billion. Talk about a return on investment in the great Dr. Buss. Rest in peace to him. He unfortunately isn't around to see it. But at the end of the day, from a branding aspect, from an organizational standpoint, I like what the Lakers have done. I think that if you're a fan of the Lakers, or you're a player on the team, or you're associated with the team in any way, shape, or form, I think you should be hell of excited for this. So there's going to be some new leadership, some new ownership coming into the mix. My question is, how does this affect LeBron James? How does this affect his mindset in terms of, do I want to continue to play on this team now that there's a change in ownership, now that they have more money to play with, and I think they're going to make some bigger moves when it comes to acquiring talent? Interesting to see how this plays out. LeBron, who's 40 years of age, the guy just is like a Superman, He's basically a Superman without the cape, right? Doing it night in and night out on a high level. I think LeBron honestly has another 2 to 3 years left. I don't know if he's going to exercise that length of time and play that long, but I think he's got at least another 2 to 3 years. I'd love to see him win another championship with the Lakers. They did win one in 2020 during the pandemic. I don't think there's an asterisk next to that title, by the way. They won it fair and square. Everybody had the same situations and had to be in the bubble, and that's what it was. So stop sipping haterade, pump the brakes. That's a real title. Shout out to the King James. Shout out to Luka, JJ Redick, Mark Walters, the new owner of the Lakers. I love what they've been doing, and I love what they're going to do in terms of building in the future. What are your thoughts here on this acquisition and the Lakers being sold for such a high price? What are you thinking here in terms of the future?
Well, I don't know that money is going to play a role. I mean, I guess it will, but the NBA has that salary cap where baseball, is more like the wild west.
Yeah.
You can just buy a team. So I don't think the Lakers have been in the past like afraid to spend money, but you do got to look at profitability and those penalties, they stack up. But that being said, you're right. I think he will look to make some bold moves to make a statement. Also to leverage the fact that they're trying to extend Luka. I've heard he's gonna go, but I don't think he's signed yet. I'm not sure. But I don't think LeBron's going anywhere. I mean, he's 40 years old. Where's he gonna go? His family's settled here.
Yeah.
And so I think we got that. I think the best thing LeBron has done, we've seen it over the last year, is he's taken a step back and let Luka be the main guy. And so that's something that other star players haven't done. You know what I mean? You think about the Carmelo Anthonys and the Allen Iversons of the world, who just they just felt like they had to be that guy at all times. And so I think this is gonna provide longevity to LeBron's career. But yeah, I look forward to seeing what the owner does to put his stamp on it.
Well, big time shout out to Jeannie Buss, Mark Walter, the Lakers organization. A lot of exciting things to come. They definitely have to make some moves because, like I said, the Western Conference, you've got KD in Houston now. You've got the Thunder, who I believe are going to be a threat for the next 3 to 5 years minimum, with all the youth and athleticism, and the front office has got everything in order. But with that being said, episode 62 is in the books. Thank you for watching Sports Hop. Don't forget to tap in and follow your boy on the gram at Sports Hop Media, at Mack B, MACK, as in boy, _. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We appreciate the love. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. For all the latest news on hip hop and sports, subscribe here and keep it locked. It's your boy Mack B.